Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It is wonderful to see all of you tonight.
And you as well.
Yes, indeed. It's good to be in the house. I was looking at in our invite and reminder for Bible study tonight. Looked like everybody had kind of a little bit of a long day, a lot going on and everything, but we are here. And I was thinking about it. What I was doing today, I was looking at just stuff on a spreadsheet all day, and just highlight, moving, and I said, "Ooh, my eyes are tired." You know how you're just staring at the computer screen and stuff, and you're doing something just kind of like it wasn't exciting at all. And but yeah, at the end I was like, "Ooh, my eyes are tired." So it's been a day. So tonight I thought we would just talk about active faith. Active faith. And so we're going to be coming out of James, the 2nd chapter, and it's going to be verses 14 through 26. That's what we're going to primarily work with. James, the 2nd chapter, and starting at verse 14. And we're going to talk about, as I said, active faith. I want to say welcome to everyone who's joining us via Facebook. We're glad you joined us tonight. So as I was kind of looking at this and looking through some stuff and doing some research, I came across a couple of different surveys. And so the surveys were talking about belief in God among Americans. So that's what they were kind of surveying. It's interesting, when you do surveys, depending on, how you structure your questions, how you ask, you can get all kind of different responses and response rates and stuff. But a couple of things that the survey found was like 53% of the people they surveyed know God exists and have no doubts. So that was 53%. 18% believe in God but harbor doubts. And then another 4% said, well, they believe in God sometimes. And then another poll that came out, it said it found that more than 68% of Americans identify as Christians. I think if you probably go back, 20 or 30 years, that probably would be a whole lot higher than it is today. But that's what that poll found. And so it was kind of interesting that sometimes you look at that and you see all those stats, and in any of them, way over 50% either believe that God exists and have no doubts, and then the 68% that are Christians. But sometimes we display a disconnect between our system of belief and our conduct. We display a disconnect. What I mean? So what I mean is that we say we believe one thing, but then our conduct says something different. So we've got a disconnect sometimes between how what we say and then how we act. So we're going to talk about that, a little bit tonight. And as I was kind of looking at the reading about the book of James and kind of the theology behind it, it was talking about how James was really a more practical, his epistle is like practical. So it's not a whole lot of theology in it, a whole lot of things like that. It's kind of dealing with kind of practical activities of individuals. However, the part that we kind of going to deal with tonight is probably, if it had a kind of theological point, it's probably like in this kind of section that we're going to kind of deal with a little bit here tonight. So with that being said, we're going to jump right into this. and get somebody to read verses 14 through 17.
What doth it profit, my brethren, though a man say he hath faith and have not works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister be naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you say unto them, depart in peace, be ye warmed and filled, notwithstanding ye give them not those things which are needful to the body, what doth it profit? Even so faith, if it hath not works, is dead, being alone.
Wow. So what James is doing here is kind of using the socio-economic circumstances that we have, that we encounter, to kind of contrast the idea of faith versus works. Controversial topic. But what he was talking about here in this example, as he gives the brother, talking about the brother or the sister, he was talking about, a person needing substance. And they come needing substance, but all they get was encouragement to go in peace, stay warm, and be well fed. So let's think about that. So, encouraging words are important in life and in the church. But when you don't have clothes and you're hungry, the encouraging words are good, but you walk away what? Hungry. And
naked.
Hungry and naked. And so what he's getting at here is that, yes, faith is important. We need faith and we should have faith. But we got to have actions behind it. We got to have some actions behind it. It's kind of like basically, what he's dealing with here is that James is basically asserting that genuine faith affects the believer's behavior. So genuine faith should affect our behavior. So, if we have faith, that means that in everything that we do, that should come out through how we act and how we deal with one another, how we deal with our brothers and sisters, how we deal with situations that we encounter, how we deal with those things. And so, you think about it, I don't know if looking at their situation, a lot of times for us, I don't know if you guys ever do it, but you walk into your closet and you think about, man, I don't have anything to wear. Erica's looking at me. She said, yeah, yes. You go in there, you say, you don't have anything to wear. But when we say that, it basically means maybe, I don't have anything appropriate. I don't have anything I want to wear. That's what it can kind of mean for us. It doesn't necessarily mean that we really truly don't have, anything, to wear. So like in this example here, we're talking about, as Mother Jenkins said, hey, these people don't have anything. They naked. Let's say if we look at it like that. And so, they're coming into this situation then saying, hey, I need some clothes. And so if we're going to say what verse was that? That was it 16? And one of you says to them, go in peace, stay warm, this is my version, and be well fed. And so basically what it's saying is, let's say, for example, in this example, that, we're basically telling them in their circumstances, when you leave, basically you're leaving almost as you came in. There was no change. We didn't give you what you need. And so as I was thinking through this and everything, like I said, I was reading about Martin Luther, and Martin Luther was a Greek theologian and everything, and it was talking about how he was doing a version, or he was doing a version, let's say, of the Testament. I got different versions and stuff like that. So he did a version of the New Testament, and he put the book of James in the appendix. He put the book of James in the appendix. Why do you think he put the book of James in the appendix? Any thoughts on that? Why do you think he did that?
So that'd be the first thing people see.
Well, the appendix is at the end. It's kind of like, if you want to look in there, you can.
It didn't mean nothing to him.
Well, I think you're right on it. It really didn't fit into his theology, the theology that he was teaching. It really didn't fit into his theology. So basically he was teaching a faith-based theology. And so this, what James was touching on here about, faith and works didn't fit into his theology. So therefore he put it in the appendix to the New Testament that he was doing.
To the New Testament he was doing?
Yeah, to his version, his version of the New Testament, he put that in the appendix because it didn't fit. And what's interesting is it's kind of like what happens a lot of times, and in this situation, it kind of deals with a little bit of how the people you're dealing with, who your audience, that type of thing. So to his audience, he was trying to get across to them that, faith is the most important thing. But I thought it was interesting. I had not, when I was reading that, talking about he had taken that book out and put it in the appendix. I said, wow, that's interesting.
So you saying that Martin Luther was faith-based?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep, that's what he wanted to. That was his kind of theology and what he wanted to focus on. And so, basically, well, like I said, what James was doing here was kind of like he felt it contradicted his theology, right? He felt that it contradicted his theology. But people, I think, got to see faith in what we do. We should be exercising, for lack of a better word, our faith. So if anyone has, if you see people and they say, well, they're X, Y, and Z, and you can't tell it, what does that say? What's that, man?
They're not X, Y, and Z.
They not X, Y, and Z. Because let's say in this example, like we were talking about and what James was showing here in his socioeconomic example, to those individuals, they didn't help them. They said, well, we came to the church and they saw we were hungry and they saw we didn't have on any clothes and all they gave us was words. What do y'all think about that? Y'all might say, well, words were good enough. I'm waiting for somebody to say.
No.
Minister Parker is thinking hard.
They were supposed to feed them
Mm-hmm.
and clothe them.
Right. James 18 and 20, somebody.
A man may say, thou hast faith and I have works. Show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works. Thou believest that there is one God, thou doest well. The devils also believe and tremble. But wilt thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead?
So this verse 18 in the version that I got here, it says, but someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without works, and I will show you faith by my works. So, James is kind of using this kind of rhetorical thing here. It's kind of almost like an argument in a way. You got one person say, well, I have works. You have faith, I have works. Show me your faith without works, and I'll show you mine. So they're going at it. They're going at it, trying to say, okay, well, yeah, I got this, you got that. Well, who is better here? Who is better? Who is better? But then in verse 19, it says, in my version, you believe that God is one, good. Even the demons believe and they shudder. Senseless persons, are you willing to learn that faith without works is useless? So I was thinking about, it was talking about, you have different, like I was saying, like Martin Luther, you got different doctrines and stuff like that. And the doctrines and everything and that we live by, and the church is run by, and they operate by, and everything are important. And they direct, what we should do, and they're valuable. And I was thinking about, so I grew up in like the Methodist Amy Zion Church, Mother Jenkins. And, but you know what? We had the discipline.
Yes.
We had the discipline in the AME Zion Church. And I was thinking about, and it told you, everything, how order from A to Z, how you run the church, who does what, how you should be doing it, all those kind of things. If something went down, somebody was pulling the discipline out on you. They're pulling the discipline out on you. Mother Jenkins knows. They'll pull the discipline out on you, Mother Jenkins, and stuff. But we have all those rules and we have all those things and everything. And when you look back and you go back, we are supposed to have rules, and we live by rules and structure and all these kind of things. And, but I guess my point is sometimes when you're doing stuff, we have to let our faith kind of direct what we do. And, we talk about, a lot of times when, in the Bible and stuff, we see, God directing and doing a lot of things that sometimes don't make sense to humans, doesn't make sense to the human eyes and stuff like that. And so, but in doing that, in doing and following what God would have us to do, we got to operate in faith as we do these things. But yeah, Mother Jenkins, I was thinking about, I don't know why I thought about that, but I was thinking about the discipline.
Yeah, because it was something. Telling you. And you couldn't get a hold on one any kind of way either.
But anyway, it was talking about here how James stressed that even demons believe and they shudder at the thought, but their belief hasn't changed them at all. And so if we look, I'm just going to pull up Matthew 8 and 29, where it's saying, where Jesus is casting out demons and stuff. And it says, suddenly they shouted, what do you have to do with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time? So he was just making a point, and he's making a point where, okay, yeah, about faith. We got faith, but even demons believe. But they're going on doing whatever they're doing and everything, but he's making that point. So it's one thing to talk about God and another thing entirely to obey God by putting that faith into practice. So basically, that's what this is talking about, is basically putting our faith into practice. That's what kind of James was trying to get at. That's really, his overarching point here is putting faith into practice. Putting faith in the practices. So just a quick question for you guys. How is faith, or give me an example of, or how is faith more than just what we say we believe? How is faith more than just what we say we believe? Mm-hmm.
More than just faith.
Mm-hmm.
Action.
Action. So if we say we have faith in God, we have faith, but a little something happened to us and it knocks us off our pedestal. And you look back and say, well, I thought that person had faith. Even sometimes you think yourself, I thought I had faith. Something happens and it knocks us off. And so it kind of shakes you a little bit. And, but I think it reminds us, of course, that all this is a continuous process. It reminds us, that is continuous, a continuous process. And so James here is kind of, his audience here really are the Jews. So that's his audience. So he doesn't question, he's not questioning their faith, by him saying they're his brothers and sisters and stuff. He's saying, okay, yeah, I know you got faith. But what he's trying to say again, and to make the point is, okay, let's exercise that faith. Let's just not say we have faith. What they say, let's not be hearers of the word, but we got to be doers. We got to be doers of the word as well. And sometimes we have a lot of people who can, I want to say, quote the Bible back and forth and those kind of things. But then when somebody approached them that's in need, what do? So it made me think about sometimes, people, I've been in situations, maybe it came to my mind, I've been in situations where, somebody approached me about, a need that they had. And there have been situations where I say, oh, I can't help you. I can't help you. I can't do anything for you. And so that kind of, looking at this made me think about, those situations that, personally, that I've been confronted with, that, somebody might say, well, now I thought that person was, they're the deacon in the church. Oh my goodness. But, you think about those situations. And sometimes, self-checking yourself, the things that you get into in those situations like that, when you look back on it and say, well, that wasn't the godly thing to do. That wasn't the thing that I should have done at the time. So I was going through that. I don't know if anyone else has ever been, in those kind of situations where you make a decision, let's say like the example that I gave, and then later on you thought about it and realized that have to ask God to forgive you, because that wasn't the godly thing to do.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, so.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just with me, I think now in my season,
Mm-hmm.
in my season age and where I am, now I'm asking God, but I think for sometimes it's just like, and I hate to say it, it depends on who
Mm-hmm.
the person is or what the circumstance is.
Right.
Because, well, look at God. I got this homeless man right here. I got the bed and the door. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, look at God go text me. So I think it's all in like the discernment of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like you see what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
me and Michelle gonna go out here.
Gotta go.
Okay.
So I think Evangelist had a good point in that your discernment kind of plays a part in that.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get in some of these situations, a lot of times, let's say we react to it, and maybe we should be take a second, say, God, what would you have me to do? How would you have me to deal with this? What would you have me to say in that situation or circumstance? So I think she has a really good point, about using your discernment in these situations that you get into. Okay.
Amen.
In verse 21 is saying, it reads, wasn't Abraham my father justified by works in offering Isaac his son on the altar?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we look at that one verse, it says, we think about it, it says, wasn't Abraham my father justified by works in offering Isaac his son on the altar? That in some ways, as we're talking about, seems to contradict Paul's preaching that salvation comes from faith. So in Romans 28, Paul says this, we conclude that a person is justified by faith apart from the works of the law.
Right.
So that's what Paul says. And then in verse 21, James is saying here, wasn't Abraham our father justified by works in offering his son Isaac at the altar? So what do you guys think? Is there a disconnect in those two things?
Say it again.
So verse 21 talks about, it says, wasn't Abraham our father justified by works in offering Isaac his son on the altar? So that's what that says. And then Romans 3:28, this is Paul here, and he's saying, for we conclude that a person is justified by faith apart from the works of the law. So then, kind of my question then is there kind of a disconnect between those two things?
A disconnect between
What James was saying.
what James was saying as far as Abraham.
What James was saying as far as Abraham, wasn't Abraham my father justified by works in offering Isaac his son on the altar?
Right.
And then when in let me find my verse. Here we go. Yeah, and Paul in Romans 3:28 was saying, for we conclude that a person is justified by faith from the works of the law.
So it's saying about the same thing, right? Or no?
I don't
Oh,
know.
you asked.
I'm asking. I'm trying to find out.
So,
I'm trying.
I would say yeah.
I'm trying to find out.
sounds like in James 2:21, sounds like Abraham, he activated his faith. And he had to really trust God in this matter. But because of his faith and God saw his faith, willing to sacrifice Isaac, God allowed him to not have to sacrifice him because he was testing him to see if he was going to. He was testing him to see if he would do it, if he would trust him. So in trusting him, and because of his faith and God saw it, his works were justified.
Okay. All
Because
right.
he was offering his son up to him when he really didn't want to, but he made the sacrifice to do it just for God.
So what the first part of that you said that what did you say? You said Abraham activated was activating his faith. Right. So that's kind of the point. When you look at that, let's say on the surface, what I was trying to say, hey, what it was talking about saying about works. And then when you get down to what in Romans, what Paul was saying, but that was basically the key is that, basically here, Abraham was just activating. He was activating his faith. So he had faith, and then what he was doing by those works was activating that. Put it in action. Put it in action. Perfect. And so if you go down to verse 22, it says, you see that faith was active together with his works. And by works, faith was made complete. And the scripture, verse 23, and the scripture was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness, and he was called God's friend. You see that the person is justified by works and not by faith alone. So then it goes on to talk about in verse 25, in the same way, wasn't Rahab, the prostitute, also justified by works in receiving the messengers and sending them out by a different route? For just as the body without the spirit is dead, so also faith without works is dead. So it goes through that story of, if you get in there about Rahab and the spies coming in and her helping them escape and all this kind of stuff and telling them about, believing in God and all of that. And so basically same concept here. But it's interesting how, on one hand, he's using Abraham, the father of all nations. And then on another hand, he's using, who's this woman he's using?
Rahab.
What's she? What did it say?
She's
She?
a harlot.
That's right. In his example. What do you think? What do you think? Why do you think he would do something like that? Why do you guys think he would use that contract?
God has no respect of a person. Whoever allow him to use, have to use them.
But you got to be willing to be used.
Yeah.
Both were willing.
Both of them were willing, right?
I'll use you if you will.
And so at the beginning, I was talking about, let's say his audience. James' audience was Jews, right? His audience was Jews, so they have certain belief structure here. They got a certain belief structure. And so, Jews were chosen, the Gentiles over here, right? So, exactly. So he's using this to say, hey, God is talking about, both. He's not leaving anybody out.
Right.
He's not leaving anybody out, and he's not leaving anybody out.
Right.
And so, so we gotta. And this is interesting because, like I say, he's not leaving anybody out, and he's speaking to both people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think that's important when we, in delivering and speaking and looking at what's going on here, is that whatever message that we're doing, we're have an inclusive message. We have an inclusive message. So here James has an inclusive message. So of course, like we were saying, there's no disconnect between James and Paul's teaching. Paul wrote that salvation comes because of God's grace through faith. That's in Ephesians 2:8-9. But he also wrote that the purpose of our salvation is to do good works that God has planned for us. Good works are the natural result of real faith. Good works are the natural result of good faith. So works aren't what we do for salvation. Works aren't what we do for salvation, right? It's what we do because of salvation. It's what we do because of salvation. Because, because the idea is, we if God is, we say we want other people to experience that same salvation that we have. So life demands more than words, it requires action. A faith that boils in your soul propels you into action, not only saves you, but it enables you to be a part of God's redemptive mission. So we're part of God's mission. And so if we're a part of God's mission, being a part of God's mission requires us to what to do? Act. Right. We have that saying sometimes is that, you may be the only God somebody sees or what have you. You might be the only. So it requires us to act. So when they see us and we're that representative, then we have to act accordingly.
Mm-hmm. You never know, like, how you act, like, at work. I get my, I don't know, even when I talk to, like, the patient, I always say Jesus, or that's a blessing. Just to let them know, sometimes it's comfort, but in the same thing, I'm letting you know where my faith stands. So as I talk to you and you got this referral to come to the doctor, I'm telling you, and I'm giving you comfort. But then, when you talk to people that way, they talk it back. By the time I get off the phone with them, they telling me to have a blessing.
Right.
It's not so much that I want, like, every contact for them to see the God in me. I'm not saying Jesus.
Right.
But if I bring you peace in our conversation, you experience joy in the conversation, you feel it. And that's, I think, because you never know when you will see that person, like if they were to come to church. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I always think about, like, if people come to church and they see you, and I don't have my scrubs on now, so what did I reflect when I was in my scrubs? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You think about, like, when you go out, I'm not up here in the pulpit, or I'm not, like, in the love center church, but when I go out, can you still see it? You see what I'm saying? So we need to make sure that with our faith that we do show it. I want to be the same. I want to be the same person. I'm just me all the time.
Right.
And I think with me being me, who God has made me, I reflect. You want to reflect Him.
Right.
Because I'm a laugh, I'm a joke, I'm gonna have fun. But then in the midst of that, I'm gonna say something about Jesus. However I put it to you, I'm gonna hit you with it one way or another. should be shown, because you sometimes are the only person, the only Jesus that somebody sees.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to say, like, oh, I came in contact
Right.
with Anthony, I came in contact with Erica, I came in contact
Right.
with Carlisa,
Right.
and I see that they live what they say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think you definitely want to activate your faith.
Right.
And to
Right.
be-
Right. Right. And it's interesting, like in those situations and stuff, and you can be, just talking with people, just seeing them, what have you, But you made it something you said is interesting. You start out with them talking about it, and then they end at the end.
Yeah.
They're telling you.
You have a blessed day. I will, you too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that just shows, like we're talking about here, the impact that we have on one another here, and the impact that we can have on people. You can have, person in whatever situation, and, by you exercising your faith, and you can turn their whole attitude around.
That's true.
You can turn their whole attitude around.
And then you don't take every experience for granted. You see what I'm saying? Like that every experience you have with somebody. I don't know if I think I shared it with missionary Powell. One day at work, this man called from Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, I couldn't figure out, like, sir, you in Louisiana, you wouldn't be referred to see us. And he was like, well, yeah, I'm in Louisiana. And he just went on talking.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, I said, well, you weren't referred to us. He was like, well, yeah. And he went on. And then he quoted a scripture. I said, so you called me to talk about Jesus today. So you said,
Right.
And I still stayed on the phone with him for like probably about 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I think I was supposed to call here and talk to you.
Right.
So don't take like every experience, the little things that we take for granted. Like I could have hung up with him. I could just like, so you live in Louisiana. And when I looked at my phone, I was like, and I could have said like, I ain't talking to him. But the more I talked to him,
Right.
I think he needed that, and I needed it too, because I was having a crazy day.
Right.
So I think we should don't take every little experience for granted. What we think is so minute, like realize that it's so much bigger than that. You see what I'm saying? So we shouldn't take it for granted. To show our faith.
Right.
With the little things.
Right.
Yes.
And it's interesting how, it doesn't take a lot of time to make a big impact.
No.
That's true.
It doesn't take a lot of time to make a big impact.
No.
You can spend a few seconds free whatever with somebody, and you can make a big impact on it. As the evangelist was saying, you're on the phone with somebody, it can make a big impact with people. Because we don't know what people are going through. They don't know what we're going through. We don't know what people are going through. And so I think this is a good conversation because, sometimes we can be, kind of short and kind of like, what the evangelist, this person called, I don't have time for this. Hang the phone up. But taking a few minutes of time, kind of brought about a completely different enlightenment, completely different situation. So what I wanted to kind of end with here and was saying was faith brings a person to salvation, right? What we talked about. And works brings that person to faithfulness. So faith brings them to salvation. Works brings that person to faithfulness. In other words, faith is like the cause and works is the effect.
Say that again.
Faith is the cause. Works are the effect. All right? So we have faith. We have faith in God. We have faith. And then the effect of that is what we do. Our actions. That's the effect of it.
Mm.
You know, so when we again, like I was saying earlier, is that when we act and when we go out and do things and we talk to people, when we share with them, then, you know, we're putting that faith into action. We're putting that faith into action. You know, so as we were talking earlier I was talking about Martin Luther, and Martin Luther put, you know, James in the appendix. Put James in the appendix, because, you know, he was saying, well, I'm talking about faith here, and James is kind of bringing his own works idea into this. But in a way, he missed the point. He missed it. 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 You know, so that was interesting. Like I was sharing in the beginning, I was like, wow, he put it in the appendix. You know, and so like I said, then it went on to talk about why and everything. But I think at the end, he missed the point. He missed the whole thing staring in front of it. You know, so, you know, because, you know, our faith has to be active. It has to be active. You know, yep, it's great that we've got faith. Awesome. But isn't it even better that we have faith and we do something with it? We do something with it. And so I think that's what he meant. He was like, yeah, we got faith and we should have faith and that's all we need. Yes. But when we put that faith into action, share it with others, allow other people to see it, it allows you then to bring other people into the fold. Any comments? Anything people want to share? Any add-ons? I say any comments? Anything anybody want to share? Anything anybody want to add on? Anything anyone wants to add on? Add in.
So, I don't know, I just think it's important, like, to activate your faith, and if you believe, like, to activate on it, like, to move, because, like, I tell my kids all the time, like, you either trust God or you don't, and you trust in him, you do what you supposed to do, and watch him do his part.
Right.
Like, could he just do work miracles? Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But you gotta work it. You say you believe in him and what he has for you, then go. Just step. You see what I'm saying? Just move in the right direction, and he'll go with you. And I think, like, throughout life, that's how we should look at it. Like, if I trust God and I believe in God, then I should be able to step out. Just step. He'll take. You know, he'll do the rest.
Right.
I hate that's like so cliche, but
Yeah.
he'll do the rest. Like, if you just step out and say, "God, I believe, but I'm gonna do this," and he'll do it. I mean, it's no different than even, I guess, for an analogy, us getting in our car. You know, we believe that when we get in, when I push this button, my car gonna start, and then when I put it in D, it's gonna go.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So that's the same way, like, with our faith. We believe God. So when I activate and I call on him and I make a move, I'm totally expecting him. My faith is for him to do it. Like, and then, I don't know, faith should come easy after a while, because after you've seen him do so much, like, now I believe for anything.
Right.
So, you know, after, you know, sometimes things get hard where you look at stuff and be like, but now I still believe him for anything because I've seen him do so much. So after a while, when you trust him so, I think your faith will come easy. It'll be tested,
Right.
but it'll come easy to where I believe God for anything. I'm a believer. The only thing, and I think Pastor and I had talked about it before, is that I will always believe and have faith for the big things. I've learned to trust him with the little things, because I be mucking up the little things. And if I just have faith, I'm gonna do the little things when
You know, when you were talking about the little things and big things, the thing popped in my mind. And we talk about, you know, like you say, historically, we have faith, like all these big things, and we have them, but then the little things, you know what? Because we was like, oh, these little things, I'll do them.
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
I got that.
Yeah.
I got these little things and stuff, but then the little thing we be messing up cause big problems.
Come on now, it's the whole big thing. that you
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
And at the end, you know, and these things, woo, if I had just, you know, asked God direction on that little thing, I wouldn't be into this big situation over here
Right.
now.
Right.
That's true.
You know, but a lot of times little stuff, oh, we got that. I don't need to pray on it. I don't need to, I got it. I got it. I got
I
it.
be mucking it up every time. I'm learning to trust it with the little things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's important because we do. I think it have the tendency to say we can deal with it. Oh, it's no big deal. I can deal with it. You know, but and whether it's big, little, whatever it is, you know, asking God to give us direction and exercising our faith in everything that we do. Very good. Do we have any prayer requests or anything like that? Thanks for coming out and thanks for joining us tonight online. Remember to join us on Sunday. We would love to see you out here at 3926 Market Street, Suite 204, where our motto is, love is what it is.